Hi everybody, and thank you for joining me today. So I have moved my frame over and I'm now working in the area that's between the flower bud and the big open flower next to it. I don't think we'll actually get to the big flower yet. I got some more stuff to fill in between that. Yeah, so I apologize in advance. My throat is a little sore as it is extremely smoky today. It's been really smoky the last few days, unfortunately. Yeah. As that wildfire smoke has blown over us. And like I always say, we are lucky that we aren't in danger of the actual fire, so I won't complain too much. But yeah, it is affecting the air quality, which is pretty bad right now. So yeah, if I talk less today, that's why. I try not to clear my throat too much, but unfortunately today is probably going to be one of those days. Yeah. It looks like this is supposed to be the last hot day for a while. Yeah, like I said in my last video, we sort of got all of July's weather in September instead. So, yeah, today I'm having to run the air conditioner, but the rest of the week it'll be the heat, I think. Yeah, they said, that's Canada for you, driving to work with the heat on and then driving home with the air conditioner on. So, yeah. We've got sort of a mix of big blocks of color and some confetti here. So we'll see. And again, not stitching diagonally anymore, following the way the colors go. So I can see sort of some here outlining this flower bud and some going this way and sort of a big area here. So yeah, I'll see what I decide to stitch where. Okay, let me take a look at the thread. It's parked down here. Okay, so that's what will help me decide what I decide to do. So yeah, instead of attaching a long thread at the top, I'm going to instead do a shorter one. Oh, if I could actually manage to get it to work, that is. I swear I know how to fold a thread in half, but you wouldn't know it to watch me trying to do that right now. Yeah, it's been one of those days this morning. Oh, and I put that in the wrong place. I tell ya. Yeah, I am not on the ball today. All right, let me see if I can pull this back. Or if I have to cut that out because I made a mistake. Let's see. Trying to make sure I grab the correct one here, because I'm also pulling another thread here of another color I can see. Yeah. Okay. So. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I find when I do the loop start from the front, once I pull that loop to the back, it can be really tough to undo it again. If I have to, yeah. That's sort of the one drawback of starting the thread from the front, is if you mess it up and you have to undo it, it becomes very tricky, but we managed. Yeah, there we go. I started it here instead of here because I wasn't I didn't cross-check with my grid lines until after I put the thread in, and then went, oh, wait a minute. Something doesn't match. So, yeah. Just about blew it with the very first stitch there. Oh dear. Okay. So the other half is away today. Yeah. We kind of had a break for a while because for a while he was away almost every week, and then he wasn't for a couple of months, and now he's back to being on the road. So yeah, it happens. Like I said in previous videos, he usually isn't on the road this much, but they were putting things off because of the pandemic, and so yeah, he kind of had 2 to 3 years worth of work piled up, that the stuff that couldn't be done remotely, and yeah, it couldn't be put off any longer. So yeah, things like physically replacing equipment and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go a little out of order here because the way the threads are traveling, but as I said, no floating stitches. This is still connected on the one side, but I won't do this one because it would be floating around by itself if I did it now. So then take this thread and do these, travel it upwards. So yeah, instead of diagonal, my work ended up kind of wavy and more vertical. Well, I have found with converting my stitching technique a bit, I don't have to move the frame quite as often. So there is that. Yeah, now that I kind of square it off more instead of keeping it 45-degree angle. Yeah. Which is good because that's kind of my least favorite part, is when I have to move the frame. It's because I keep it in a stand, it's kind of an ordeal when I do that. Yeah. Got to take it out of the clamp, and then gotta take it out of the Q-snap, and then I have to take all my grime guards off, and yeah, move it and then put everything back together. It's, yeah, a bit of a pain. Although it is nice when I get to spread it out and sort of look at the whole thing at once. That is definitely, that's the payoff. The trade-off, or I should say. Yeah. So yeah, I was saying maybe I would reach 50%, but I think I have 3 or 4 sessions left this month, and I'm just about to reach 48%, so I think I'm safe to say that's not going to happen this month. Maybe next month, I'm hoping, but yeah, as usual, it kind of all depends on what life throws at me. Okay, so I'm just going to do this one because, yeah, that way I can just tie it off. And they were all connected. Yeah, I am actually starting at 0 today, so we'll see how much we get done. But yeah, life is good. There's no snow in the forecast for the next 2 weeks, so I am happy because, yes, sometimes we get it that early. I always say any year it holds off till after Halloween, I'm happy. Although, I don't know. Maybe we do need it, I guess, up north would be nice. Put out those fires. So, yeah. But yeah, we say here for Halloween you have to have a costume that works with the snowsuit. Yeah, in some years we don't even have a real pumpkin because the problem is they store them outside the stores, and if it freezes and then thaws, yeah, they turn into mush. And I remember one of my friends on Facebook, he had a picture of him carving an orange bell pepper because there were no pumpkins available that year. Yeah, every store had to check out their stock because they all froze and thawed, and just, yeah, they were bins of soup at that point. Yeah. Oh, come on, wake up. Okay. Come on. My goodness. I tell you. Tablet seems to need more and more time to wake up these days. Okay. Yeah, like I said, I haven't had it very long, and I'm not thrilled with the performance. I don't know if I just kind of got a lemon, or if the quality has lowered, because, yeah, unfortunately, that often tends to be the case. They try to cut corners and increase their profit margin, and, you know, you can only cut things so much before the quality starts to suffer. So, okay. So yeah, there's kind of a area of blue here, which is, I think, water. So what I'm probably going to do is kind of work around it for now, and then I'll decide from there. So there's kind of this strip of green here, which is like leaf and stuff outlining this flower bud. And then, yeah, from there I will decide whether I want to keep going downwards or if I want to go over and work that big section of blue there. Or sometimes I alternate and sort of do a few rows of the big block and then a bit more of the confetti, so that I don't get repetitive stress and I don't get bored. Okay, so now we need a new strand. Yeah, I love the colors on this piece. There's like no area that's boring to me, except for, of course, that upper left corner that I did off camera. Yeah, that was one where I outlined all that white of the clouds and then slowly filled it in like I'm doing on my Ocarina of Time piece with the black background. Yeah. Yeah, on Ocarina of Time I outlined all of the windows in the top half. Actually, the top kind of 2/3, I would say. So there's, I think, is it 5 windows below? Or 6? How many sages were there? I can't remember now. I think it was 6. Yes, because Princess Zelda was technically the 7th sage. Yeah. So there's the 6 big windows of the sages at the bottom that I haven't outlined yet, but all the top. Big round window and the little ones beside it at the bottom. I've outlined all those, and so that's a lot of background to fill in. So that means I won't have to do any more counting on that one for a while. Yeah. And boy, was I glad that I took the time to grid, because yeah, I would have messed it up. I did mess it up in a couple of places, but I caught it as I was about to sort of pass one big square and went, wait a minute, something doesn't match. So I only had to pull out like 7 or 8 stitches, because yeah, otherwise it would have been a disaster. Yeah, I was kind of nervous. I made this this cross stitch. It was a kit I bought. This was before I did full coverage. And it was a little wedding sampler for my husband's and my wedding date. And it was like sort of this wreath of flowers, and then, or it was like a semicircle wreath of flowers with writing. And yeah, I was really nervous that things weren't going to match up, but they did. Especially with, there was one I made for my mother-in-law in the end. It was the Serenity Prayer, and that one was actually like a full wreath with writing in the middle, and the fabric was not gridded. So yes, I was very nervous that when I was coming to the point where the wreath was going to join what had already been stitched, I was like, I really hope I'm not off, because yeah, if I am, I'm gonna have to fudge it. And thankfully, no fudging required. It worked just fine. So, because yeah, one of my friends, her mom gave her an old project she had never finished. And she said, yeah, she found as she was stitching it, because it was a lady, it was actually of a lady stitching. So kind of meta, right? But yeah, it was of a lady, she was embroidering a lady embroidering. And at the bottom, she said the skirt, she had to kind of fudge it a lot, because it had been miscounted and she didn't want to rip out anything. And yeah, but yeah, she showed it to me and I was like, well, I never could have told that she'd had to fix the skirt, because she did a good job. Yeah. Well, I guess especially since the focal point of the piece, oh, that looks funny. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna unpark this and come back out, because the way it's parked is just kind of weird looking. So yeah, sometimes I do that. Sometimes when it's been stitched with other threads, they kind of can make things sit a little strange. So there, I think that just looks a little neater, even though I was probably being too finicky. But yeah, so I have people say they're nervous about leaving stuff in hoops and frames and things, and she said that one was left in its hoop for probably 20 years. Yeah, and it was fine. So yeah, and I said same thing. I left a project in a hoop for a decade, and I was still able to get the wrinkles out when it was time to iron it. So I was a little more worried, because that was before I stitched with a grime guard, and I had held the hoop with all the fabric bunched up in my hand, and I was more nervous that the marks that my hands had left from not being perfectly clean when picking it up were going to would not come out, but they did, thankfully. So, because I did have one project that, yeah, unfortunately, the oils from my hands discolored the fabric, and I was not able to get it to come out. I ended up having to sort of embroider extra stuff on top of it to cover up those grubby marks, because yeah, unfortunately. So yeah, that's why I have people say, oh, why do you have to wash it when it's done? Well, because yeah, if you've been handling it, your hands will leave behind oils that can over time discolor the fabric. And I'm always rather grossed out by how dirty my wash water is when I'm done. I said, even though I use grime guards now, there's enough from touching, you know, all the threads and stuff while I'm stitching it, that yeah, I can gather a lot of grime that is not necessarily that visible to the naked eye, but it is there. Yeah, there was some people who said they put theirs in their washing machine, but I've never been that brave. I always hand wash mine in the sink. So yeah, I just used a small piece to do these little blue ones that sort of extend into this area. I'll do bigger pieces later when I'm doing that big chunk there. So yeah, again, I can see this line of stitches on this leaf kind of goes out this way. I will probably follow that. And then, yeah. Yeah, just gonna take a look, so. Yeah, I'll probably follow this down here a bit, and then I'll probably come up and fill in those two big blocks there, so. Yeah, what's probably going to happen is I'm going to work sort of to where the pink starts coming in. I will work all the stuff next to it, and then I'll work on the pink of the big flower when I get there. That's going to be quite a large area to work over, I think. Oh yeah, that's several columns. We'll get to stitch the center part of the flower in this pass. Yeah, I think we got the very top of it in the last pass. Yeah, there's a little bit of orange and gold there, but we get to stitch the majority of it in this pass. So each pass is taking me about 4 and a bit. So I started this one in September. So yeah, I probably won't finish this pass by the end of the year, because that's, like I say, I usually take about 4.5 months, and I have less than that. So we'll see. Yeah, and I don't think there's as many big blocks as there were in the last. Yeah, the last pass had a lot of big blocks on the peacock's chest and neck, and this pass I have a lot more detail work because of all the feathers and the peahen coming up and the peahen's feathers. So yeah, if I do finish it before the end of the year, bonus, but yeah, I think I'm calling it now that that's probably not going to happen. Okay, so looking at this line of this stitches, I'm probably going to stitch a little bit here so I can do the whole line of these at once and back up. So yeah, I do tend to wander up and down a bit. Okay. Yeah, there's another leaf kind of branching out that direction as well. So. Just taking a peek to make sure everything will show up on camera. I have to film it zoomed in a little bit more than I used to try and get a clearer image, which seems to be helping. So, yeah, just have to be careful not to wander out of the area. Yeah, I guess if I wasn't stitching on 14 count, it would all fit, but then I guess if I wasn't stitching on 14 count, I would probably be stitching more rows, yeah, because on my 18 count I do, I think 80 rows instead of 60, because that fits. Okay, so we'll do a bit of these here. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna kind of cut off this leaf here, fill in this, and probably fill in that is what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I just tend to end up working from the bottom up because a lot of the, when it slopes that way, it just kind of makes more sense to me. Oops, that was wrong. Made it wonky by going a little too far. There we go. Just gonna scroll down here a bit. Yeah, I can see this whole leaf kind of goes that way. So I'm probably gonna cut it off here for about now. We will see. Yeah, so it's funny, we've been watching sort of the movies that they've picked up from earlier franchises. So we were watching the newer Ghostbusters movie, which of course the originals came out in the 80s. And then, yeah, so it was quite funny. We loved, at one point, the kids, they end up in jail and they said, we get a phone call. And the guy says, who you gonna call, right? And of course they do call the Ghostbusters, so yeah, it was just so fun. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters! Because yeah, they did that on Casper, the live action Casper that they made in the 90s. And they had Dan Aykroyd show up in, you know, his Ghostbuster gear because they're trying to get them out of the house so they could sell it or whatever. And he says, who you gonna call? Someone else. And then he runs off. So yeah. Love what they put those things in there. And then we watched the newest Indiana Jones that just came out. It wasn't the Crystal Skull, it was the later one. Oh, I've totally blanked on the name now, but yeah. So, but it was funny because we really liked in the Crystal Skull. You know, guy says we've been in you know, bigger scrapes than this before, and we've come out just fine. And you know, he says, Indy says, yeah, but we were younger then. Ugh. And they said it was funny because it shows at one point there's a train full of stolen artifacts. And they said if you look closely on one of the shelves, one of the artifacts is the Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So that was funny. Yeah. Yeah, I heard supposedly that they're going to do a remake of the Never-Ending Story, so yeah, although I actually did not see that one until I was a grown-up. Yeah. I know it was really popular when I was a kid, but wow, we weren't allowed to watch much TV when I was a kid, so yeah, I never saw it. I had to watch a lot of these, the classic 80s films when I was a grown-up, Gremlins and, yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, see, I'm not a huge fan of like the Disney live action remakes lately, but I like when they pick up stuff that's older and kind of make sequels to it. That's been fun. Yeah. So yeah, I think what I may do is kind of alternate a bit. And so I'm going to work this big block as well as working down here, sort of go back and forth a bit. Yeah, like I say, that way I don't overdo it and I don't get bored. If I only do a sort of a thread's worth of the big blocks and then I switch. Yeah. I say that kind of keeps things interesting. Yeah, oh my goodness, there was somebody in one of the groups I'm in who said that they had to have carpal tunnel surgery, so they hadn't been able to stitch for a long time, and they said, I finally picked this up. Finally, and in the last week they said they did over 17,000 stitches, and everyone was like, is that a typo? Do you mean like 1,700? No, she did 17,000 stitches in a week. I'm like, that's like a month's worth of stitching for me. Holy cow. People tell me I'm fast. Now, they were tent stitches, so they weren't full crosses. So, but I said, you know, even if you divide that in half, say it was only half the work, you know, that's still over 8,000 stitches in a week. That's really impressive. And somebody said, well, I can see why you had to have carpal tunnel surgery. Like, please be careful. Don't hurt yourself. Yeah. Because, like, yeah, that's, you know, like I said, I managed to do 1,000 stitches a day for 2 days, but then I couldn't stitch for like another 3 or 4 days afterwards because it hurt so bad. So, yeah. I'd like to stitch that much, but I don't want to hurt myself, so. Okay. Yeah, my tablet seems to be working fine now. It's just, yeah, I find first thing when it hasn't been used for several hours, it can be a bit buggy. So yeah, half is over 153,000. I'm at 146, so yeah, almost 147. But yeah, I don't think I'm gonna get over 6,000 stitches done in the time I have left this month. Like I say, if I do bonus, but I don't think that's going to happen. So next month is most likely we'll get it, but yeah. Yeah, I've been managing about 2% a month or so, sometimes 3. So yeah, we shall see. Okay, so I said I'd switch back and forth a bit. That's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, so I took a look through this pass and it doesn't look like I'm gonna hit any zeros in this one either. So yeah, unfortunately, even though we have a few colors that don't have that many stitches left, the stitches that are left are like in the very last pass. So yeah, it is going to be a while before we hit any zeros. We have not yet. Maybe the next pass we will see, but not in this one, I don't think. Okay. Okay, let's take a look down here. Okay. So yeah, I did that because I wanted to be able to do all these stitches sort of in one go. Do the top legs and then come back up and cross the, or do the bottom legs, I should say, and then come back up and cross them with the top legs. Also do that one there. And then park it. Oh, did I? Oh yeah, for a second I thought I was off, but I wasn't. And then come back up here and do some more in this bigger block. Oh my goodness. Yes, so I'm probably going to end up kind of outlining this big pink flower for now, but not doing it. And then after I've worked everything around it, then I will work on the flower is probably what's going to happen. Kind of like how I did with the flower bud earlier this month. Oh, pardon me. Actually, I think I can do a couple more stitches with that one. Okay. Yeah, that big block definitely helps my stitch count go up quite quickly. Oops, something doesn't look right there. Yeah, I pierced the fabric instead of going back down in the proper spot. There we go. So because of that, the loop couldn't pop to the back. Uh-oh, that one doesn't look right. Ah, rats. Yep, I was correct. Okay, well, I could undo a bunch to fix this, but I don't feel like doing that. So instead, because that would mean undoing like 2 whole rows here. So instead, I'm going to do something else, which if you've seen my previous videos, you already know about. Just finish this row, park this here for now, then. Because yeah, if I undo that much, kind of the thread will get fuzzy from being pulled back through that many stitches, and then I would end up having to cut it anyway, because I wouldn't want to restitch with it when it's that fuzzy. So yeah, I just don't see the point in doing that. And that was, like I said, quite a lot of stitches to undo. So instead I do this, and I pull that taut, and then so I thread another loop onto it, and then tie it off like I would any other thread. And then that loop gets pulled taut, and then it gets stitched over so it gets secured and it won't be loose anymore. And I didn't have to rip back a bunch, because nobody likes doing that, right? That's my least favorite part. Yeah, I usually catch those sooner, but I didn't this time, so. Also, I find with this fix that I just did, again, I don't have to turn my work. I basically never turn my work over anymore. Saves me a lot of time and fiddling around with it. I could just sort of tell as I stitched past it, it was looking a little loose, and I was right, it was. Okay, so this is a short piece, but I think it's enough for these 5 stitches that are in a row here, which I won't be doing right now, I'll be doing later, but that means I will just park that thread there, and then I will attach a new one for the branch off here. But first, I'm going to go back over to the left and fill in some other stitches. Oh, I've got a, yeah, got an end coming up through here. No, still. Not that thread. My gosh, there. That's better. It's always so frustrating that one pull is all it takes to bring the end to the front, but then it takes multiple of them to make it go back. Very annoying. Okay, so again, I have one branching off here, one I'm going to do here, and then branch off or slope off the other way, if it is long enough, of course. That all depends. once again, the colors are sloping this way, so that I'm probably going to stop working on this one here, work on this, and sort of work my way upwards is what I think I'll do. But I will add one more thread for the moment. Yeah, sort of rather than working from the top down and the bottom up at the same time. Sometimes I do that, but in this case, I don't think I will. Okay, so yeah, like I said, I'm gonna kind of work in here and then work out again. There's another sort of big section of that color coming up. Shall we stitch to 200 today? Why not? Start another, these bigger blocks here. So yeah, this color branches off, so I'll probably continue with this long thread to do this one, and the other 3 stitches. I have shorter pieces left over. I'll use those, one of those to do those 3. So some people could choose to stitch those 3 kind of floating off by themselves. And like I say, either way works, you know. I definitely don't think my way is the only way. It's just my way. Okay, so we'll stitch to just past 200. Then I think that will be where I take a break for today. Yeah, over 200 stitches. That is definitely a good amount. Yeah, like I say, those big blocks can be tedious, but it is kind of nice for making a bunch of progress quickly. And then I break them up, so yeah, like I said, I don't get bored. So 202. So thank you so much for joining me today, and hope to see you here next time. Thanks, everyone.